The Drivers' Championship is my second priority, living a good life and being social. What is this? Gents, what are we doing here, really? What are we doing here?
I think there's this discussion about, Lando was booed in Mexico. Like, should they be booing? They shouldn't be booing. Why it's like, I bought a ticket. I can boo.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the F1 Hour. This time with my colleagues, my brethren, the legends over at the Red Flags Pod. We have, of course, with us the goatiest to have ever goated in goated and goated things. The one that they call Brian and Matt. How are we doing, chaps? It doesn't matter how you are doing because there are a multitude of F1-centric threads at which we need to. But no, genuinely, chaps, how are you doing? It's a privilege to have you on.
It's great to be here. Great to be here.
Yeah, we're honored as well. Honored as well to be here. Can't believe it. Right. We've arrived.
And to be considered in the goatiest of goats with the one Peter Windsor, who I never miss. I never miss a post quali recap or a Cameron Peter Windsor recap because I know it's going to be spicy with the two of you, so I'm glad to be in such company.
I mean, and you guys with Gunther, it has to be a conversation, chaps. You guys are blazing a trail, right? New F1 media, having proper conversations rather than this tightly buttoned up consensus nonsense, chaps. And I suppose we'll have the conversation in the next 45 minutes underneath aforementioned aegis. You guys said something on the tell me about the Mexican Grand Prix Grand Prix in the first instance. Matt, what did you make of it, chap, me having watched you work most recently?
As an Oscar fan, it was a tough one. The quality was tough. The race was a little more exciting, a little more uplifting for me. It was interesting how exciting it was given, the lead was in no question. Thank God we had a few guys out of position. I think the FIA stole defeat from the jaws of victory. It was really interesting that they like I was talking about in my pod, our pod will be my pod soon. We'll see, Brian. They stole defeat with they gave Max carte blanche to get into a position. They got Lewis out of the way, right? They assassinated him. They're like, pew pew, goodbye, Lewis. Max is they fixed the race, quote unquote, to get Max in this glorious position. Like they made themselves look like, as you would say, bellends to get Max into a great position, gave him the plot armor, only to take it away at the last minute.
What are we doing?
If you're gonna fix the race to get Max where he needs to be, fix it all the way.
Insane.
Do it all the way.
Absolutely insane. What do you mean by plot armor, Matt? Genius phrase, by the way.
Well, I definitely didn't invent it, but it's kind of, when you're watching a show and obviously, in Game of Thrones, lots of people are going to die, but obviously Jon Snow needs to make it to the end, right? But they literally bring him back to life. I think the only thing, you got this thrilling championship battle, should be thrilling, between Lando and Oscar, and it's not really getting anybody. I know this is your channel. It's not really getting anybody aroused, excited. And then here comes Max, like a wrecking ball, and people are getting pumped about that. So that they understand that they need to keep this alive. So obviously, when he's wheel banging and he's going off the track and he's doing all these kind of crazy things that, Lewis. So he goes, in turn one, he goes off the track. For turn one, right? He hits Lewis. Then he goes off the track. Then Lewis goes off the track and they go, no, Lewis, you can't do that. Now, that to me, I don't think either of them should have gotten a penalty, but they got Lewis out of the way because I think they want to keep Max in the hunt. They want to keep Max alive, which from a viewing standpoint, I completely understand. So that's the because the second Max is out of this, I think interest is going to wane.
Everybody turns off.
But if you're going to make yourself look like assholes, keeping him in the race, at least don't pull the plug at the last minute.
So Max,
commit to the bit. Commit to the bit.
This is the FYA, mate. Consistently inconsistent. Although I defend my guy Max in at the very least. I don't know if you guys have been karting before. In karting, mate, the yellow flag circumstance is perfect, right? Because everyone keeps their foot buried deep in the throttle and puts their hand up to say, "I see the yellow flag," and of course I'm abiding by the rules. I feel like Max did one of those a little bit, that he eased off the pedal just enough to make the steward's decision or the racing director's decision hard. No, Brian.
Well, what do you mean within? But when science was stopped, he was doing that.
No. So when they gave no, don't be daft. When they gave Max the penalty, I don't think Lewis deserved a 10-second penalty. Even 5 is pushy. But the reason why I think they gave him the penalty is because Lewis cut the corner. They didn't give him for cutting the corner, but he just buried his foot straight in the throttle and kind of crystallised the advantage. Whereas Max, at the very least, because he was caught up with Bearman and whatever, he gives the race director a decision to make.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a little bit of a brain fart, I guess you could say, with Lewis. I guess you could say, I don't know, he was caught up in it. I don't know if you can fully expect the driver in those circumstances to make that decision. Certainly, he had also been, as I see it, completely screwed over on the first lap, because Leclerc, he was clearly ahead of Leclerc, and he stayed on track. Leclerc goes off, and then Leclerc gets to keep the position. That, to me, was insane,
mate.
That was allowed to happen. I understand it's teammates. I understand that there was a lot going on, and the stewards kind of were overwhelmed by whatever. And it's a Ferrari and Ferrari. We can let them settle it. But, that was, to me, painfully obvious. I watched it back and could not believe that Charles Leclerc was allowed to keep that position. So, yeah, certainly a 10-second penalty if he had just, slowed down, maybe even given the position back to Max. We've seen those conversations happen between a driver and his pit wall. So that was, certainly a missed opportunity there. Yeah.
Go on then, Matt. Talk to me about Oscar very quickly, because he's your guy. Obviously, you've had Oscar on the channel, Oscar's mom even on the channel. Is this the beginning of the end for Oscar Piastri and his championship challenge? What's happened to Jack? Because he was going gangbusters earlier on in the season, right? Are the first 9 races, he'd nailed himself 4 poles and 5 victories or something like that. And in the next 10, it's like 1 pole and 2 victories. Is like his form has done one of these. Do you guys still hold out hope? In fact, let me pitch it at you, Matt, because you're the Piastri fan. Do you hold out hope that Piastri can still be Piastri and win himself his first Drivers' Championship?
Well, it depends on, what minute of the day you ask me. But currently, I got this Delulu hat, so I wear that to let people know that I'm in a delusional state of mind. I think, yes. I think I've started to get into the stock market a little bit. And I think of Oscar a little bit like an index fund. He dips a little, he goes up, he goes down, but he kind of stays, other than Baku, which was a huge, disastrous crash. I think Lando is more like Bitcoin, big ups, big downs, big collapses. He's more like an individual stock, which is more volatile. And currently, this is big Delulu, obviously. But if you look at all of Oscar's bad races, quote unquote bad races, if you look, Baku, I don't even remember what happened. I had my memory erased, so that didn't exist. But if you look at Singapore, out-qualified him, right? Lando just pulled a good move. I think he was on the clean side of the track. Just a rare good start from Lando. And I don't even remember what happened in Mexico either. But from my memory, Lando doesn't start well. So that was the one good start from Lando. Austin was tough. I know I'm probably leaving one out. Mexico qualifying was tough. But Mexico race, he looked fine. So these all look like, and I know I'm starting to sound like a crazy person. I look like a crazy person too. But they're kind of all different things. They were all different issues. So like it would be more concerning if I saw like all the same issues. they all just seem like each race was like a different problem. So it's harder for me to point to like, this is there's this one underlying issue that's going to kill him. Whereas like, it just seems like each week it's just a different random thing. And I think hopefully he can get on top of it in these next 4 races.
I'm scared for the chap and I'm rooting for him, mate. Like I want this chap desperately to win. He's been brilliant all season, 3rd season only, but then it's like flipping Nora. You're going to get out qualified as quick as Lando is. Half a second, chaps. Half a second. What are we doing here, Brian? That's chaos, chap.
I don't know. I think, this year in the beginning of the year, we were having a lot of conversations around Oscar and Lando, and what we had kind of maybe come up with was that maybe Lando's the more talented driver. He maybe has a higher ceiling, but his floor is also a lot lower. So when Lando's bad, he's really bad. When he crashes in the beginning of Q3 in Saudi Arabia, you're thinking, what is going on? His racecraft still leaves something to be desired. I don't think that is nearly at the same level as Oscar, but that 1 lap speed, the tire maintenance, seems like Lando had the edge. But what Oscar had was the unflappability. What Oscar had was, the ability to be consistent and, always kind of be there. And, Lando's gotten a lot of heat. There's been a lot of talk, and it's become a foregone conclusion that this guy does not have like a killer instinct. He doesn't have what it takes to be a champion, X, Y, and Z. And certainly next to Oscar, it doesn't pass the eye test because Oscar seems so unflappable. But now we're seeing that Oscar's human and that in this game, anyone's human. Anyone can have these off days, even the greats, even the Lewis Hamiltons of the world, and at times even the Max Verstappens of the world, though it looks a little bit different. Max would crash into people. He wouldn't necessarily be off the pace. And I think, to me, these last 2 races, from what the people that are smarter than me have said, is that they're very low grip, and that doesn't gel with Oscar's style. Oscar's needs to be he needs the grip to be right there, and then he can be on rails. But when the car's not on rails, he struggles a little bit more. So these last 2 races were that. I expect him in the races coming up that maybe are a little bit grippier to be there. But I also throw some, I've got my own little Delulu hat over here. I got my Lando Norris Delulu hat. And if I may, I'll just say that Mr. Lando Norris, people have been sleeping on him. And do I think that he's the Iceman? No, I do not. But do I think that he has some clutch bones in his body? Yes, I absolutely do it. We saw it last year in Abu Dhabi, and we have seen it this year. Mexico's the worst place to start on pole in the entire calendar. And he absolutely nailed the start, got into the perfect position, and sailed away into the distance. So to me, I think that Oscar's going to be right there. I don't know if Max can catch these boys, barring both of them really, screwing the pooch at some point. But I think that Lando Norris, this is his championship to lose, in my opinion.
How very dare you, sir. Lando on the money when he's had his Weetabix, Brian. Again, he's as quick as anybody. Like he's a bloody brilliant driver. I've been the one espousing the Lando Norris slander, calling him Lando Norris and Dustin from Stranger Things and all this other stuff. And then he makes me humble pride. Like this race weekend, right? The start was like God tier. He was brilliant. But surely, Brian, the point is that we don't see that often enough. Like to save a dying puppy, you're going to put all your money and your life on Lando to get it done over the next 4 races, or you're going to back a more dependable Max or Oscar?
I think if Max was closer, or if in Brazil, I mean, I don't know. I've been checking that weather forecast. I'm like, if it rains in Brazil, then there's no way Max is losing that race. And the best that Oscar and Lando to me can hope for is like a 5th and 6th. That changes the game. But I think if Max was closer, if Max hadn't ran into George in Spain and he had those 10 points that he lost there.
Oh, mate.
I mean, I think that this championship to me is in Lando Norris's hands right now. He has all the momentum. I know it's 1 point, but if you look back, if Zandvoort doesn't happen here, he's up 19 points
Oof.
on Oscar Piastri. He's up. I don't even know. He's down 36. He's up another 18 points from there on Max Verstappen. I think that if it was closer, I would be more scared of Max Verstappen. I think that he's still, obviously, I leave room for Max to pull off miracles, as we know that he is capable of doing. And I leave room for these Piastri, for these McLaren boys to mess something up. But I think Lando's got the momentum. The trophy's in his hands at the moment.
Go on then, Brian. Let me try. Sorry, Matt, you go.
Well, you know what's interesting about what we're doing in this sort of speculation with Lando and Oscar, not to cut you off, but I think what we're doing is we're looking at each one of these guys and we're like, we have this platonic ideal of what a WTC driver is. We're trying to eye each of these guys and we're like, which one of you looks like Lewis Hamilton, or which one of you looks like Max Verstappen? And because that's what a WTC looks like to us. Which one of you looks like Michael Schumacher? Which one of you looks like Nigel Mansell, or like a legend? Which one of you looks like a legend? And then we're watching them in real time and we're like, Lando doesn't look like a legend. Oh, wait, Oscar doesn't look like a legend. And like one of these guys looks like at the moment is gonna win one, but neither of them are like looking like legends. And I think we forget that in these spans of Vettels and Schumachers and Hamiltons and Fangios and Sennas, every couple of years there's Raikkonens and Buttons and Hills, Damon Hills. Like there are guys who are, and Rosbergs, right, who are A, like not A plus, but A drivers, A minus drivers. They're very, very good. They're not legendary drivers. And I think because those A drivers get lost in our collective memories because they're not fucking legends. Because when you think of a WTC, you actually don't think of Jenson Button. You don't think of Damon Hill. You don't, like, they kind of get lost in our projection of what these guys are supposed to be. That's why we're having such trouble like picturing Lando. We're like, well, Lando's not going to win it because he doesn't look like any of these guys. But maybe if you actually compare him to Button, that's actually a good compare. Like Button was a very good driver. He held out. He held on for dear life at Braun. He had that dominant car, kind of like McLaren right now, right? Very dominant. Started to slip, held on for dear life. Button, he fought Hamilton pretty close. I mean, they got demolished by Alonso, but they're these guys. Rosberg, very, very solid driver. And I think it's this collective memory. There's almost like a pasta strainer. So these very good guys, they get lost, and all we have left is Senna, Schumacher, Hamilton, Max. And because they don't conform, we don't see them conforming, we have these doubts. But I think when you remember that sometimes legends don't win the WDC,
right,
then it becomes easier to get your head around Lando winning. It becomes easier to get your head around Oscar. I mean, Oscar seems personality-wise, racecraft-wise, aura-wise to conform more to the Sennas, the Schumachers, the Maxes. And that's why I think it's just easier to gravitate towards him. But on track, Lando can very well, he has his good days, he has his bad days. And I think that's a lot like a Rosberg or a Button, like very good drivers on their day. Hills, very good drivers on their day. They're not necessarily, they're A's. They're not necessarily A pluses. Anyway, that's what I think is psychologically going on right now.
Matt, I'm going to see that and raise you this. How very dare you put Lando Norris's name in the same sentence as Nico Rosberg, a man who gave everything. Shit. A man who gave everything. That barely saw his missus and his kids.
True.
And
that
again,
if
you're talking about talent, then Lando's obviously got more talent than Nico, but this dude decided that his dying wish were to win himself a Drivers' Championship in 2016 if it needed as the tax.
No British Vogue. No British Vogue for Nico Rosberg on the championship year.
No British Vogue. No. None of this stuff about the Drivers' Championship is my second priority, living a good life and being social. What is this? Gents, what are we doing here, really? What are we doing here? You can forgive me for going scorched earth at the altar of Lando Norris when he talks. When he looks Lewis in the eyes, in the whites of his eyes, to use your phraseology, and says, well, it's easy to win if you've got the best car. You only need to beat your teammate, and he's SH1T because he's Valtteri Bottas. Like, what do we do? It's hard to love Lando Norris, gents.
It's
hard to love him.
I see everything that you're saying. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. He has it's also like in the way that sometimes he answers every question with like a smile in this kind of weird defensive way. I think that he's very kind of
smarmy chap. Smarmy.
He teeters between like smug and cocky and completely self-effacing, and like it's this weird, crazy, polarized, emotion that he has. But I mean, even in Mexico, when they asked all three of them, are you going to have to worry about lift and coast in Mexico because the brakes can get really hot or the engine can get hot, and then he's with the Lewis and Charles, and he goes, well, don't ask me, like these guys are the experts on lift and coast. And Lewis and Charles looked at him like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like he makes life hard for himself. And I don't know, it's an interesting thing because even, as I look at some other sports, I tend to gravitate towards more of the killer vibe. I've gravitated towards, MJ and Kobe over LeBron, you know what I mean? Or even like in that kind of killer mentality. But I don't know, maybe I chose Lando early, and I think that he has all that, but he can still step up in these moments. So if it was only bad, then I would be with you. And we'll see how these last 4 races go. And this might ultimately prove to be, his downfall. But if he can pull off this championship, scoreboard.
Brian, riddle me this, good sir. How very dare you put Lando Norris's name in the same sentence as Kobe and Jordan? What are we doing, sir?
I'm saying he's not like them. He's not like them. Fine. Kobe and Jordan are the killers versus maybe, well, this is the knock on LeBron. Some people say is that kind of LeBron's maybe there more for like a good vibe and a good time, as opposed to like I'll do anything and I will like I will kill for this. That's kind of the comparison that people make in terms of the GOAT conversation in basketball. So no, I'm saying the Maxes of the world, the Lewises of the world, the Schumachers of the world, they're the Kobes, they're the MJs. And I kind of feel like Lando's a little bit more on the LeBron like mentality, that wave. He's not nearly as good.
He's new privileged F1, isn't he? Matt, let me pitch the question at you this way, chap. Is it us that needs to adapt and evolve? They say that it's not the strongest of the species that survive, but the most adaptable to change. And me and you, therefore, Matt, the old dude at the bar, saying, back in my day, F1 used to be brilliant. Drivers used to drive 7,000 laps and not even have... Is it us that needs to warm and grow to Lando, not him that needs to change to adapt to our expectations then?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think drinking haterade is part of the, I think there's this discussion about, Lando was booed in Mexico. Like, should they be booing? They shouldn't be booing. Why? It's like, I bought a fucking ticket. I can fucking boo. Why? What are we doing here? That's part of sports. Is as long as you're not screaming racist epithets or hateful, as long as it's not hate speech, or you're talking about the guy's mother, or keeping, if you're booing, that's perfectly. When did we get to this age where you couldn't boo? This is theater. This is wrestling. That's part of the fun. it's part of the fun of booing. You know, when I was a kid, you went to the Bronx, you went to Yankee Stadium, the other Boston Red Sox came to town, you booed. It was fun. It was cathartic. That's it. You know, what is the point of sports if you're not rooting against something? Now, I think we probably get a little too invested in this anyway. You know, do we have to be so emotionally invested in the success of it's hard, right? Because if you don't have a little emotional skin in the game, then you don't get to enjoy the ups. So it's like, it's like the stock market or gambling. Don't invest more than you're willing to lose, right? So that's what you need to do, right? I think you got to be just careful with your level of emotional investment. And that's it. I mean, fucking hating is the best. It's so fun. I mean, Kendrick Lamar, that album, it was so, I hate the way that you walk. I hate the way you talk. You know, Dave Chappelle, right? You know, the haters ball. Remember that sketch? You're a millennial. Remember the haters ball? You know, they're just hating. It's fun to hate. You know, these guys are millionaires. They're millionaires. They're dating models. They're flying on private jets. I'm allowed to hate these guys. Why can't I hate these guys? You know, they're not beneath me. I'm beneath them. I can fucking hate them all that I want. That's how I blow off steam.
But
I yell at Lando Norris. I'm fine. I yell at my intern. I'm an asshole. That's why I yell at Lando Norris when the clips don't come in on time.
It's
awesome.
I'm not outside of the cockpit. Have I ever been the biggest Lando Norris fan? Absolutely flipping not. No chance. But to play the antithesis argument back to you, Matt, isn't the thing that so to go to a baseball game or a basketball game and boo at your rivals, the away team, the team that you don't like, is a very different thing, because as far as F1's concerned, you don't play F1. These are guys and girls that are getting in the car every single weekend and risking their lives quite literally for our own viewing pleasure. So old grizzled F1 veterans will look at that booing and say, well, hang on, Lando was this isn't the time to boo Lando Norris. Lando Norris was pitch perfect. Or did you see the start? 800 meters down to turn 1 and he didn't miss a beat. Not this weekend. At Monza, when it was the inversion and whatever, and McLaren interfered unnecessarily. Yeah, cool. But you can't do this catch up a cruel booing. You can't boo him at Mexico for the sins that McLaren committed in Monza, surely, Brian. Or maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I don't think that fan base was in Monza, so they had some pent up boos they need to get out of their system. I don't think they were necessarily booing. I don't think they were booing his performance on that day. I think they were booing the distaste that was a reflection of the distaste of this entire season and how McLaren's kind of gone about it. And both of these guys at times have suffered from it, from the way that McLaren's chosen to behave and chosen to run their organization. And I think, I as much as I'm a Lando fan, I don't feel some intense need to protect him from any criticism. I understand everything that you're laying against him. I see it myself. And I think that people are within their rights to boo him. It's part of it. If you want this thing, it's going to be hard. Max Verstappen was booed in Mexico multiple times.
That's how you know you're getting somewhere. That's how you know you're getting somewhere. Who boos Esteban Ocon? Nobody cares.
That's right.
They booed Vettel. They boo Hamilton. They booed Max when they were bored of him. That's how you know you're fucking getting somewhere.
Yes.
They boo the greats. If the worst,
it's a compliment. Honestly, it's a compliment.
You're a student of the Attitude Era. You said it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What, right? They talk about you read the books about the Attitude Era. F1 could take some fucking notes from Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon, right? Heat. You need heat, right? If they're cheering for you, that's great. If they're booing for you, that's great. You need these oppositional forces, right? You need a heel. You need a face. You need these energies, right? So as long, like when The Rock was trying to be a babyface, it wasn't working. He turned heel. They hated him. Now he's a fucking billionaire. Okay. he became a billionaire because people booed him. Okay. So there is money and
greatness on the other side of being booed. I mean, it's a good. Booed. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good. I think it's a positive sign that he's being booed. It means that he's the guy right now. You get booed when you're the guy.
Gorgeous George.
Gosh,
he told a young scrawny black kid from Kentucky. He said, Muhammad, people will pay good money to watch you to watch someone try to shut you up. So keep on razzing, keep on sassing, and just talk your shit. That scrawny kid, his name was Cassius Clay, and he took that to heart. He learned that from a wrestler, and he just ran his mouth. And everybody wanted to shut Muhammad Ali up, and that's why he became he was very talented, but that's why he became a big star. It was his showmanship, and conservative white America was like, somebody shut this guy up. It became a big star. He became a big star. So his talent mixed with everybody hating him. This guy, didn't declare for the. His star power there.
And then on the other side of it, it's all love. At the other side of it, everyone loves Muhammad Ali. No, they didn't. What are you talking about? People fucking hated him. Honestly, the same with Schumacher, right? Now we think about Schumacher and he's the greatest ever. He's the greatest ever. He got banned. For running into people. Senna. Oh my God, everyone reveres Senna. Senna crashed into his teammate. Senna did shady stuff. So I think you got
to get crucified before they love you. They got to crucify you first.
I think that's something that Lando could learn. And we go back to Hungary last year, right? This was a defining moment of this McLaren papaya rules relationship of Lando's career, of Oscar's career, when they did the weird pitch strategy. All of a sudden, Lando Norris is leading the race. Oscar can't catch up with him, and they are emotionally blackmailing him to give Oscar this win, his first win in Formula One. And Lando capitulates, and he does it. And at the time, I was screaming, "Go heel! This is the time! This is the time to say no! Shut the fuck up! I want to win a championship." And he didn't do that. And I'm still kind of waiting for him to do that. I get little pieces, little nuggets of it when he made the move in Singapore. I felt a little bit okay. There's something. But I don't know. Maybe he can win this championship without it. But if he's going to have to win more, if it's going to be more than this, even if he does pull this thing off, he's going to have to let that thing out at some point. And I think I am still waiting to see that.
Brian, let me see that once again and raise you. This sun is shook because there ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. He's scared to death, scared to look. Listen, let me tell you, I've been screaming. The words that you've just said, you've taken them directly out of my mouth, chap. Heel turn, Lando, fudge everything, go balls deep into this thing, and the championship's there for you. But there's something stopping Lando. I hope you guys are going to explain to me. So there's something that I miss about Lando's psyche. There's something stopping him from going full heel. He's just like the John Cena, the John's something about the John Cena.
He's the Rock. He's the Rock. He's before he does when he's Sonny. What was his name?
Yeah, I know.
What was his name?
But it's different. You know what? It's different though because people didn't like. I mean, people don't like Lando. Lando's polarizing, but to get to what I think you're asking here is kind of what is stopping Lando? Yeah. And I don't know. I think he's a young kid. He's an internet kid, and he wants to be liked. He wants people to like him. And that is a tough thing for an athlete to want to be liked. And Max Verstappen doesn't care about being liked. Kobe Bryant didn't care about being liked. Michael Jordan didn't care about being liked, even by his own teammates. He didn't care if his teammates hated him. And he talks about that in The Last Dance. Michael Jordan's talking about people criticize the way that I do things, but and he's crying as he did it because it wasn't just easy. But he had a singular goal to achieve that, and he did what he thought he needed to do that. I don't think that really I don't think that lives in Lando. I don't know. I don't think it does. And that's makes this thing. I don't think he's one of the greats. I don't. I feel this weird, I don't put him in that I don't put him in that category anywhere near that category. I don't put him in the Max category. Even if he wins this year and next year, I don't put him like anywhere close to that. But all that being said, the idea that he has no clutch bone in his body, I think, is an overstatement, because I do think that we have seen there have been examples of times where the pressure has been on and he's been able to deliver.
Techie, this chap. You've nailed it there, brother. I want to argue, but I'm not sure that you give me any wiggle room. I'd say this about Lando. I feel like the world is rooting for him. I feel like the world wants him to do well because he's a cheeky chappy, and he's got the look of a chap. We talked about the look of a champion earlier. There's something in his eye. He's got that glint and the smile. He looks like the champion off of the F1 movie. Do you know what I mean? There's something to that. But the problem for me, for Lando, is that in not doing the babyface to heel turn, it's clear that there's a tax that sometimes you need to pay if you are to become a World Drivers' Champion. And therein lies the problem for me. Like, I just feel like when Nico Rosberg is sending him the messages saying, listen, this is what you need to do, me and you. And when I'm looking at you, I feel like I'm looking in the mirror. You have all the level of anxiety and everything that I suffered from. How about you do X, Y, and Z? This is what you need to do to get over the hump. If you need to go full heel, then do it. If, again, your number one priority is winning the championship, and it's not, is it? And that's why he's going to get on the Mexican podium every single time. And the Mexican populace, from whom emanates legends like Julio Cesar Chavez and Marco Antonio, real men, like, of course they're going to boo Lando Norris because they feel like he's been gifted a championship. Round third, gents, talk to me very quickly about the hot topic on everybody's tongue in the F1 space being favouritism. Do you think, Matt, that Lando Norris is the benefactor of favouritism? I don't think anybody's arguing that McLaren, if commercial value is a thing, I don't think you could argue that Oscar Piastri would be a more valuable commodity to McLaren than would be Lando Norris. He's got the look. He's sponsored by Ralph Lauren, and he does the monster adverts, and bloody Hilton by himself. They're all into him, right? I understand the commerciality. So under that aegis, Matt, could you argue with a straight face that Zach Brown wouldn't want for his prodigal son to win a championship if he could have the choice?
I think Zach Brown 100% favors Lando Norris. Now, how much that actually manifests on track is high. I think it's highly unlikely that anything overt is happening. I don't think Lando's getting better parts or a better car or better overt treatment. But I think that whatever advantage Lando has is probably just emotional. It's probably psychological. You've all been that kid at lunch where you walk into the cafeteria and you're not that guy, right? That everybody's kind of, you get that sinking feeling where you're holding the lunch tray and you're looking to where to sit, and it's not, the room isn't yours. Like, that's a sinking feeling. I think it's more that, or if there's a 50-50 call that could go either way, like with the pit stop or with the strategies. What's interesting was in Mexico, right? I forgot who said it. I'm stealing this point, but why didn't they give Oscar the medium tires? Let him do the max thing. Let him do an alternate strategy, because those tires held up well. But suddenly, when Lando's out of position, they start rolling the fucking dice. They start giving him alternate strategies. But when Oscar's out of position, they put him on the exact same fucking strategy as Lando. All of a sudden, we're in lockstep. So is it because they're trying to screw Oscar? No, but I think when it's a 50-50 ball, I think maybe Lando gets the tip, but I can't be certain about that, but I am certain that there's probably some kind of psychological advantage going in Lando's favor. Even at the very least, that him being the incumbent, right? Him being there longer is definitely a slight advantage. Even if nothing else is there. Yeah, that's my non-delusional take. That's my honest to God take.
And to that, Brian, you respond how, sir?
I think I don't disagree with almost any of that. I think that is true. I think that's there. I certainly think how long Lando's been there, his relationship with Matt, with Zach, that goes, before his time in Formula One. I do. Yeah. I mean, I think that's on point. I think from what from what the rumblings have been, and from what I feel like I can understand, is that Zach is on the Lando train, but Andrea maybe a little bit more on the Oscar train. So I feel like there's at least a little bit there. But certainly, does McLaren, does the board of McLaren want Lando Norris to win this championship? Definitely. Would Formula One want Lando Norris to win this championship? 100%. I mean, you think back at he is the new age Daniel Ricciardo. They wanted, Daniel Ricciardo. They put him. They presented him to us, the new fans, as this is the guy. And I think maybe people that had been watching Formula One for a little bit
Roman
longer,
Reigns.
he's not.
Yes,
he's not really the guy, but he has the star factor. He has he's handsome, personable, funny, all these things, and Lando has that. And I think the Oscar's got a rabid fan base as well. I think people maybe sleep a little bit on the Oscar, marketability, but he's not you have to kind of look a little bit deeper. You have to mine a little bit further into the cave in order to understand Oscar's marketability. So I'm kind of in agreement with everything that Matt just said. I think it was stupid for them to not put Oscar on an alternate strategy in Mexico. I think that if that was a conscious decision because they don't want to do that, where they maybe would have done it with Lando, I think that's something that should be looked at.
He keeps on getting the bad end of the deal, doesn't he, Oscar? And how many times is he going to go to the well like this before we just all admit that there is a word and that's applicable to this circumstance, and that word is favouritism, potentially. I don't know.
No, I will say Lando's had that pit stop that Oscar had where he overtook Antonelli in the pits. That was pretty damn good. And Lando's had a handful of pretty bad pit stops, not to mention the one real car gaffe this year affected Lando the most. So not that was obviously not intentional, but in terms of, if they really wanted to screw over Oscar, if that was really in their conscious mind, maybe not in the subconscious, there would have been, plenty of, ways to do it.
There are much easier ways. There are much easier ways. You make the salient point. Brian, blimey, chaps, you guys have been legends. I feel like I've waited long enough for this collaboration, and it's you boys don't disappoint. Listen, as we round third, let me say this properly, and I mean this in earnest. Congratulations, chaps, for all of your market leading purple sector work. I feel like F1 has needed itself a pod, a duo like you guys. That too long I felt as an F1 fan that it's been very much us and them. Bring your money, but you can't stay past midnight. You've got to go back over there. And I think you guys are kind of, not to give you too much praise, but I think you guys are kind of leading the charge as far as F1 and new media, such that, Gunther Steiner's on your show every single week. Do you know what I mean? Put some respect on your guys' names, chaps. You're blazing a trail. Proud of you, chaps, genuinely.
Well, thank you so much. And every time I tune into your channel, I feel like I'm transported to Stratford upon Avon, Shakespeare, modern day Shakespeare. You're so eloquent, and the way you could just wax poetic about anything and everything is really. But
I think the beauty of what you do is that you have this ability to wax poetic. And then you have Peter on, who's just saying wild shit, and you love it, and you go there with him. It's that I think the impression from us when we were looking at the kind of F1 media landscape was kind of that we don't really say anything, right? It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and no one's taking a firm stance. Mm-hmm. And I think that you kind of bring And I think you bring the Britishness, but you also bring the messy Americanness.
Yes,
you think the messiness as well, and I think it's a beautiful juxtaposition. So no, I love tuning into your stuff too. So this was long overdue for us as well. We're happy to come on.
I appreciate you, chaps. One day when I grow up, hopefully I'll be worthy of such praise. One day, chaps, you guys have been legends. I appreciate you. If you guys are not already subscribed to the Red Flags Pod, what are you doing with your life, really? Go over there on the YouTubes. If you ingest all of your F1 content on a podcasting platform, it is a follow and a 5 stars. These chaps, the legends that are Matt and Brian, blazing an F1 new media trail. Genuinely, worth you are. You guys have been legends. I appreciate you. To my right, that's Brian. To my right-est is Matt. You guys have been legends. Between now and next time, I've been your boy Cameron CC. As always, between now and next time, the prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.